You mentioned about the stamps. Just to recap on that, you were saying about
well, when you went through the Panama Canal, a privilege granted to all seamen
All
going through
seamen,
the
yeah.
canal is
Because you couldn't go ashore in it.
that you could,
There was very seldom a ship would go with.
you wouldn't get a chance of posting a letter.
No, you couldn't
Yeah.
go ashore to post a letter. And the only hope you had, if there was someone going ashore, a pilot
Or someone.
put a stamp on it.
He
would
yeah.
post it for
But
you.
you could put any stamp that you'd have. You know
Yeah.
the way over you'd be in different countries,
correct,
and you
yeah.
have a collection of stamps.
Collection stamp.
So you could put any stamp on that. But now, Willie, you were going through the canal
I
this
was going through
time,
the Panama Canal,
and you had a letter for home,
I had a letter for home, and the pilot. I was at the wheel,
and you had no stamp.
and I had no stamp. And I went down to my wallet, and I knew I had a stamp of some sort. And what was it, Austin? It was a stamp.
Green shield
A
stamp.
green shield stamp. I'll never forget it. And I put it on. And you know the fucking pilot there, they can't speak very good English because it'd be telling you port, starboard, and you know the way it is through the canal.
Yeah.
And I said, excuse me, pilot, will you drop that letter into the letterbox? Certainly, sir, I will. Certainly, son, I'll drop that in. And the woman got it. A green shield stamp. And says, was you ever charged for it? No, she said, I never was charged. Because Panama Canal was stamped on it.
Willie, yeah.
Yeah, it come right through.
Yeah.
From, I forget now the name of the place.
Cologne or the other end, Bilbao or
Bilbao.
Bilbao.
That's the name of the place was on the thing.
canal, yeah.
Geez, sure, was there towing for years,
Yeah.
Austin. Towing for years, showed us to a good many.
Yeah.
That's the truth.
Canal
That's the
is a
truth.
beautiful, lovely to go through the Panama
Oh,
Canal.
yeah, beautiful place.
It's something that you'll never forget.
You'd never forget going through
Yeah.
it. And there's that many locks in it.
Yeah.
Well, I had a list of all the locks, and I was trying to find it, Austin. But I forget who I gave a lend of it to, the locks, all the different locks that was in it, the height, the depth, right into the Pacific.
right.
And I never, I gave a lend of it to someone, I never used it.
But Willie, I think I know some of the locks, and you can correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
And
Oh, sure, I went through it 9 or 10 times. Jesus, I went through it a
Yeah.
good many times. So I went through the Panama Canal every few
Yeah.
weeks, running back and forward down to South America, you know.
yeah,
I'm sure I knew all the pilots on it.
yeah. Yeah, I used to love going through the canal.
I had a card with them all. I got
Yeah.
a card with them all
Yeah.
on it, Austin, too.
Yeah, I think just now I have a little book.
Yeah.
I remember
I
going
had a
through it
photograph.
too.
I had a
Yeah,
whole book with photographs and all. A pilot got it from me.
yeah,
And I forget, Jesus, Mary, I don't know who got it.
yeah.
off,
Well, you know, Willie, I'll tell you a little story. Not cutting in on yours.
No, go ahead.
My
Austin.
first trip and memory of the canal was we arrived on a Monday morning around
Yeah.
7,
Yeah.
and I would have been at watch.
I know.
And when I came off watch, of course, we were alongside,
Yeah.
and we had to take on a royal.
Oh, yes.
And I think I was telling you about when we were connecting the oil line,
Yeah.
big 6-inch
Yeah.
pipe, and there was this big coloured gentleman
Yeah.
on the dock.
Yeah.
And he was looking at the ship. You see, not many Irish ships went through.
Very
at
little
the
Irish ship
time.
went through the
Yeah.
that time.
And he says, he
British.
shouted up at us. We were connecting up
Yeah.
the line.
Canadian.
And he shouted up and he said, what flag is that?
Yeah.
And we said to him, that is the Republic of Ireland.
Of Ireland, yeah.
And he has another look up and he says, my grandmother came from Cork.
Lovely job, Mr. Lynch.
Right, really, yeah.
That was a good one.
So
My
anyway,
grandmother from Cork.
that was in
Gee.
Cristobal, which is
Oh,
on
yeah,
the
I know, on
Atlantic
the Atlantic
end
side.
of it,
Yeah,
right.
I know it was. Yeah, I know where it was.
It's there. You
I
have
used to know them
you
off
know
by
it
heart.
well,
That's
yes,
what
I
know it
did,
off
yeah.
by heart.
And
I forget
you
it.
went
Yeah,
into
when-
Cristobal, and you had to wait your turn
Their turn,
to
yeah.
go through the canal,
Yeah,
and you had to also have your pilot on
Oh, yes, you
board.
must have your pilot board.
And
I
the
used to always
rope
have to
men
leave it
also
with them.
went on board, Willie.
Yeah.
You weren't allowed to use the ropes going
Oh,
through
no. You didn't have
the
the rope.
locks.
There was ropes,
Yeah.
and then the big mobile units used to pull you
the
through all.
mules.
The mules.
The mules,
Yeah.
they were great.
Yeah.
But anyway, when we left Cristobal,
Yeah.
Willie, we entered the 7 Mile Channel,
That's right.
and that brought you into the Gatun
The
locks.
Gatun locks.
Yeah.
That's right.
And they are three pair of vast concrete chambers,
That's right.
1,000 feet long,
Correct.
110 feet wide,
Yeah.
and in the locks then you are lifted exactly 85 feet
That's right.
above sea level, which puts you now in level with the lake.
Yeah, that's only the lake. you
Yeah,
see.
now the lake has fed the locks, and that's where the
Yeah.
water comes from.
That's the level of the water.
And
there.
you're brought up 85
Right,
feet, and that brings you into and level into the Gatun Lakes.
Correct.
Now
That
you
is right.
go across the lakes, and you're not allowed to use your engines going through the locks. And
Yeah.
this is where you have your mules.
Yes.
Now, Willie, it's probably an old name when the canal was opened, that they did originally use mules for pulling the ships through the
Oh, they
lock.
did at one time.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was
And-
talking to an old chap and he told me that they did use mules,
Mules.
way back.
And this is how they still use
They
the
still-
mules
the
pull you
but That's
through.
what they call the big mobile things
Yeah,
that they have
and
today, you know.
On the ship, you always had a couple of young lads,
Oh,
galley
yeah.
boys,
That's right.
and some of the smart boys would be saying, now we're going through the canal in 2 days' time,
Yeah.
save up all the
the bits for the
stale
mules."
bread and stuff for
Yeah,
the mules.
you see. Yeah, oh, that's right.
This
That's,
is true.
The old people used to. the old
Yeah,
lads used to
so
do it.
anyway, these mules
galley boys.
are electric locomotives.
Correct.
And
There's some
they,
power in them.
4 of them will take you ship, or
Yeah,
maybe
two on each
6.
side. Or
Yeah.
6 sometimes.
6,
It's all according
depending
to
on your
the
length.
weight she is, yeah.
And they actually pull you. It's marvellous to see how they
Oh,
do
boy,
the
geez,
work.
I'm telling you.
And it's like a tram.
But you see the way they have to climb, though. Austin?
Yeah, the climb and
Oh,
the up
Jesus.
and down. Marvellous how they do
climb
it.
up like
Yeah.
that. In
And
the ship.
they'll bring you across anyway, and they get you into the lake, and then they let go.
They let go, then you're on the level.
On your level, and you're on your engines then.
Until you come to get dropped down into the next.
And you you go across the lakes,
Yeah.
and if you're short of fresh water,
You get it.
you pump in all the
Pump
fresh
in all the
water
fresh
you
water
want.
you want to
Anyway,
see
yeah.
there.
So anyway, we come now to your 8-mile long cut,
Yeah, Calibra cut.
Calibra cut.
Calibra cut,
Because
yeah.
every time I make a mistake,
Yeah.
you correct me
Yeah.
on that.
Yeah, but do you know when Calibra cut was done, Austin, that was cut out. There used to be a big penitentiary, a jail there.
All right, I didn't know that.
Well,
Willie,
now when I went
yeah.
through the Panama Canal first, they were working on it.
On it, yeah.
And there was hundreds of men along there, and they were sitting like in bosun's chairs,
Yeah.
chipping it.
Chipping it, yeah.
I remember that. They were all French, I
Ye-
think.
Right.
I don't know many thousand
Yeah.
that was killed, fell off, and you know.
Yeah,
down at
well
the time.
that,
That's
Willie,
why I often hear the
that,
skippers talking about it.
yeah,
You know.
well that cut is
Yeah.
actually 500 feet wide.
That's correct. Yeah.
And it's cut from solid rock.
Solid rock. It was
Oh,
cut
some
out.
job.
Oh, God, yeah, Jesus. some
And
job.
solid rock.
Deliberate
And then, of course, after you go through the cut, which you take it slow,
Yeah, you have to take
yeah.
it slow. You only just crawled through it. Austin.
your next lock then is the Pedro McGill.
Pedro McGill. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember the name. well.
And,
But I remember it when you
yeah,
read it.
yeah. Here you're lowered, I think it's 31 feet
On the first one.
on the first one, Willie, yeah.
I know that.
And
They
then-
bring you down on the level.
That's correct. And then when you, after that, you travel, I think it's about 2 more mile.
Like
which-
2 to 2.5 hours.
Yeah,
I think it is
to
on
the
that road.
Mirror
Yeah.
Flora lock.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes. And here you're lowered down 31 feet.
That's
That'll
correct,
bring
yeah,
you
over
to
30 feet.
Pacific.
That'll bring you down. Yeah.
Yeah, Pacific, yeah.
Into Pacific.
And then you're away out
You're
into the
clear
Pacific,
then
yeah.
into the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah. But it's beautiful going through
Oh,
the
it's-
through
oh,
through the
Jesus.
canal.
Did you
yeah.
ever see the crocs in it though?
No, I never see.
You're not?
Willie,
Of course,
when-
I'd be at the wheel. I'd see
you
them,
were
but I
all
didn't see
right.
them.
You see,
I
I
was
had
up
to
at the
be.
wheel. Austin was down
I
below.
had to be at the
Yeah, I
controls
know you
all
weren't
the
at the
time.
throttle.
Yeah.
But you had to be at the controls because it was slow.
Yeah.
Slow ahead.
And yeah,
You know.
yeah, we had to be there
you had to be
all
down
the
below,
time.
You see,
Yeah.
I was always at the
Yeah.
wheel. I was a quartermaster. You see, was at the wheel and
Yeah.
through it all the time.
Yeah.
I was with the pilot.
Now-
and I could see everything that was going.
Yeah.
You know.
I often, Willie, you mentioned a name there. I'm changing the subject from the canal. We probably go back to
Yeah.
it. But you mentioned a name there, and I often wonder, was it the same person? And every time I take a walk down around Drummond, especially if there's an easterly wind, I laugh and I think of you. Do you remember the guy that died and you threw his ashes over the ditch?
Dickie Mooney.
I thought it was, yeah, right. Well, will you
Ah,
tell us the
Jesus.
story
Oh, well,
about
I'll
that?
tell you about
And
Dickie.
the east wind.
I'll tell you about Dickie now when I finish this little little stop the crater. He washed me fucking whistle, he says. Dickie Mooney lives here in Lochshinifer. at least 5 to 6 years. And he had an old boat, an old light boat, and I suppose she'd be, what would she be? She might be 20 feet long. I'd say she'd be about 20 feet long. And Dickie said to me, Willie, are you interested in the boat? I says, why, what are you going to do? You're going to sell the one you have, Dick. He says, if you want her, he says, give me £10 for her. Now, she was 20 feet long, but she was rotten. So I'll give you £10 for her. I knew he was sucker for you, Bob. I'd give him £10 anyway. She's yours. And there was an owl, it was a Norton engine, and it was in a car. You see, Dickie worked in a garage in Dublin.
Yes.
And he could do what Simon could do.
The gearbox.
He drilled a hole through the manifold.
All right.
Put a hot pipe through it.
Yes.
The starter and pedal, put her in paraffin.
Paraffin, yeah.
You know what I mean?
TVO.
TVO.
Yeah.
And then he could rig up the gearbox, the way she should be.
Yeah.
But by Christ, anyway, Dickie said to me, he says, Willie, he says, now, I had a few old cages. I was living in Luxony at the time, but a few old cages and put them out. But this goddamn engine, I couldn't keep it going at all. And I got Simon over to look at it one day. Willie, he says, throw that fucking engine, he says, over the fucking side, he says, and I'll bring over an engine in the back of the car tomorrow, he says, and I'll have her for you. Jesus, I had not thought, Simon. Throw that fucking engine, he said, over the fucking side. He says, go out to the purchase and throw it over the fucking side. He said, I'll bring over an engine tomorrow. And I turned to Simon and said, he was over the next fucking Saturday morning with a fucking engine to me. And we got it, we lowered it down the rope, put it in on the fucking bed and put it in. And Simon started her up. And he gets this fucking big drill out. And he drills a hole through the manifold and put a fucking pipe through it. Into the paraffin up. He had it going in 3 hours' time. She was going. We went around the fucking rock on her to try her. There was only the one here for the fucking bottom of the labour. She was old. But anyway, the crater. He had 2 beautiful daughters, Shelby, and I forget the other little girls now. She was 2 lovely girls.
This is this man.
Now, Mooney, Dickie Mooney.
Dickie Mooney, right.
Lord of mercy.
Yeah.
The Armadan of Rogerstown was Dickie Mooney's float, but it was the Armadan of Loch Shirley was Dickie Mooney's float, and I was the one that fucking got her.
Right.
But
yeah.
now I never.
So now.
Well, wait till I tell you the story about him. I was saying, I come home here. In 1940 at the Irish ships, and the woman wasn't well. And I said to the woman, she wasn't well at all, she had blood clots. So I think I'll stay at home for a while. And I went down to fucking Belbriggan. It was coming up for Christmas. The month of October, I think it was, early in November. So I think I'll stay at home for a while. We had a few bob, we was at the being away and I saved up a few shillings and I used to give it to her. But anyway, I said I'm not going to take a job before Christmas. I'd wait till after Christmas. I knew I'd get a job anywhere. I'd get a job. I wouldn't be 24 hours without a job. Because if I didn't get a job in Cork or in Dublin, I'd have one in fucking Cork. And if I didn't get one in Cork, I'd have one in Belfast. I'd get a job somewhere. All I'd do is ring up. All I wanted, the price of a phone message, and I'd get a job. Because I knew all the skippers and all the mates in the place. I'd get a job over there, ring up any of them in Liverpool. I knew the headmaster of Manchester. I knew I'd be in a job in the Manchester liners, only just go over and get into her, and that was all. I could get a job anywhere at that time. Because it was well got. Harry Heskett used to get me all the jobs. Harry's father was skipper of a fucking trawler, and we made a trip to the banks in Newfoundland one time for 24 days, and we got £300 a man out of it. But that was on a maiden voyage, but he couldn't bring us no more, just
right.
See?
Yeah.
So that all had to be covered up.
So now.
But anyway, to make a long story short, I was telling you.
Your mate. You were home now.
I was home. The woman
home
wasn't
now.
well.
She wasn't well.
She
You
wasn't
took
too
time
well.
off. Yeah.
I said, I'm taking time off, and I go down now and I'll put my cars in Belbriggan. I got up on the bike. I had the bike at home in the shed. We used to always have the old bike, and the lads, of course, never ride it. The bike's their own. I always had a rally bike, and I went down to Belbriggan and put my cars in. She's still fucking there. Her daughter's there anyway, that old one. So I never seen you here before, no, so I hope you never see me again. I fucking tell you the truth, because I don't know what the dole is, I know nothing about it. I said, she, all you have to do is sign your name there. I signed my fucking name there right enough for her. Jesus Christ, I was only, I never forget it. I think it was a Tuesday morning I went down to her. I think it was a Tuesday. I would come home for Friday and I went down to Tuesday to her. Thursday morning, I gets a note. There was a Mrs. You know her, Eamon. And Mrs. O'Reilly had the post office in Skerries. There was a Miss O'Reilly.
Beside the home and away.
The home and away. Was a Miss O'Reilly in it, and she sent a card up to me with the postman to know when I come down that they were looking at a helper for Christmas on the post. Sure, the fuck did I know about a postman? I was a rush man. I wasn't a Skerries man. I didn't know anyone in Skerries. I met a couple of Skerries lads away at sea. The Lord of Mercy and Pure, Brian Bates, John, what do you call him? Little John. There was a few fellas here. What do you call him? Ben Gawkin. And them, I met them and I in the Manchester Liners, and they were in, what do you call them, of Ardla? Churls of Ardla's boat, such as the fucking, what's her name, what was her name, Eamon, that ever was, they used to go in, Georgetown was for a while, in Scotland.
Not the T. Waddle or any other.
Yeah, one of them.
One of them. No, it's going on.
No,
Mary Payne,
there was some of them, they were steamboats. He had
They
a
were
couple 2 hour
steamboats,
steamboats.
yeah.
And they were over. They used to come to Liverpool. And I used to be watchman in Liverpool, and I was in the Manchester Liners, and they were in Liverpool. They knew what ship I was in, because they used to get up and say, what ship was Willie in? What Manchester Liner I'd be in. And they knew the ship. And they'd be walking up and down the fucking docks looking over the Manchester Liner that I was in, because they knew to get grub.
Yeah.
And I was watchman always on them. And I had the keys to get out the stores, the rashers and eggs and bacon for the morning, for the cook in the morning, and all the bread. The cook used to bake big rolls that length. He used to cook grub every day, loaves.
Yeah.
Vienna roll, not Vienna rolls, pan loaves.
Pans, yeah.
And I used to get 3 or 4 for them lads
yeah.
and divide them among them.
Yeah.
And they say, only for you will he be fucking starved. And then I got on to the other Manchester Liners. Billy Steele was bosun, a Manchester chap. And he used to put the watchman, if any of them lads are around, look at Willie McGee, make sure that they get a bit to eat. I had them all weighed up for that. And them lads would give me anything. They were a Skerries man.
Being a watchman was a good number, really.
Yeah, it was a good number. Yeah. Well, I'd always look after my own. I mean, I could get the fucking stuff it cost me nothing.
Yeah. So, yeah, Willie, so this man that, he was a shipmate of yours that died. This is...
Dickie Mooney.
Dickie Mooney.
Continue. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, Willie, for...
No. I was only just talking about
now. Yeah, you were
the
home.
lads. I was home.
And you met your pals, yeah.
I met me pal, but when I tell you now, complete that first. Went down to Mrs. O'Reilly, Miss O'Reilly. It was Miss O'Reilly. And my bless, it wasn't Mrs. at that time, Miss.
Yeah.
And I said to her, she, oh, you're Mr. McGee? I said, yes. But I'm a good woman, so I never learned no Irish, I said. And as I apart from that, I said, I'm a rush man. I don't know anyone at all in Skerries, I said, with the exception of 3 or 4. I said, I know Brian Bays, I know John this, and I know a couple of lads that went to see what. Oh, she, that's all right. She said, I'll sign that. And she signed it. Good enough, the woman. Got up on my fucking bike and wrote that to Belbriggan and put it in the letter box.
So you were free?
That's free.
Yeah.
And I thought that was the end of it. 2 days after, the postman comes with a fucking card. And I took it, the woman says to me, there's a lad, it's an AB's job going to just below in Drogheda. And she says, you're to go down. The skipper wants you. A little Dutch boat, about 400 ton, below at the cement works in Drogheda, looking at an AB. One of the ABs was ashore last night and he was bed up and he got a broken arm and a broken leg. And they're looking at an AB. And that got back to you, old bastard, I said to me. Boy, Jesus, that's a good one, I said, all right. And I'm going, after leaving the Queen Mary and the Queen Lizzie to get down to get into a fucking fishing boat, I said. Boy, Jesus, I said, that's something, get out. Anyway, says I'll have to cover me fucking steps, I said. I'll have to go down because I said, get no dole, you see, once you
No,
refuse
once you
duty, you
refuse,
drop up.
Willie,
I'm
yes.
not saying that the
Yeah.
dole is any good, I never got it
No,
yet. I never
no.
got it yet, I'm still waiting on it.
Yeah.
But however, I got up my bike and I never stopped or stayed till I got down to the fucking... I rode the bike to Drogheda. Oh, no bother to me at that fucking time.
Yeah,
I had a racing bike I had a racing bike that I bought and I and Lambay. I paid £7.95. Well, £8. £8 it was at that time. That was a quarter for a BSA racer. And she was a fixed wheel. And I rode all round Lambay up in the Golfish and everywhere in that bike. And rode round the what do you call it, tracks round the fucking island. I was a whore at that time. I did nothing too hard to do
And
everything.
then you rode to Trotta.
I rode to Drogheda and rode home.
And did you get the job?
I could have got it there and then, but I didn't take it.
Not one of those little things.
Oh, Jesus, sake,
Class.
Austin. But I tell you, I say when I gets off my bike and lays her again this fucking crying and walks over to this fucking thing. Holy jeez, there's 4 lads on the deck. 3 lads on the deck in the bosun. They said, are you the new AB? Simon AB, all right, but by Jesus, I said, what are you doing? I said, he said, we're covering her up for sea. I said, when are you going? He said, we're going in about 2 hours. I said, where's the Capitana? He said, do you know any about hatches? I said, what are you talking about hatches? I said, I know nothing about hatches. I said, I come out of the Lizzie and the fucking Mary. Oh, well, you're no fucking use to us. I said, thanks be to Jesus, I'm not. And I see the fucking size that was. I said, I was off in a bigger fucking lifeboat. I said,
Yeah.
holy shit, there was nothing over the water. You get a fucking drink like that over the side.
Things. Yeah,
Get a drink over the fucking side, standing over. Look, do that. You could suck us up in water. Holy Jesus, I wouldn't go around the fucking islands and I'd be afraid. Honest to Jesus.
Yeah.
She was a half-tide rock. Now he says...
Oh, sorry, yeah, go on.
Go ahead. No. He says, where's the Capitana? He's up in fucking bed. So I went up the stairs. He said, what room is he in? In this room here. Went up the stairs and knocked down. Come in, he says. And who the fucking hell did I fucking fall in with? He's half drunk. And he sits up there. What the fuck do you want? He says, I'm the new AB society you're looking for. Do you know anything about hatches? I just say, it's a comical fucking thing you're asking me. She says, I'm at being asked that down there too, I say, with the lads. So I come out of the fucking Queen Mary and the Lizzie as a quartermaster. I said, I never seen a fucking hatch in my life. I don't know what the chaps are talking about. You're no fucking use to me. Thanks be to Jesus, I said. All I can see with the whites of his fucking eyes. Say, will you put your money on that? And he put a fucking... He's a fucking me cabin from Belfast. So thanks very much, Capitan. He said, I wish I could help you. And up in me fucking bike, I rode back to fucking Belbrig and
put her in.
that was grand. But that's not the fucking end of it. That's not the end of it. The following week come, Tuesday morning. The woman goes out, she said, there's the postman again. She picks up this card. Meet Jack Fannin at the Monument in Skerries at 8:30 on Wednesday morning. For a job on the county council.
Determined to
that
make
was
you
my
work.
fucking dowel.
Yeah,
Yeah,
determined to make you
yeah,
work.
That was my dowel.
yeah.
I went down, well, I tell you down. I went down to Jack Fannin and I told Jack my story. Jesus, Willie says that's fucking awful. Let's try and get a few shillings. I wouldn't give a fiddler's fuck, I said, only for the woman's not well. Now he said, I'll have to put you, the Lord have mercy on your poor father. Your father was at the time. There was James Daly, there was Tolan, what do you call him, at the Belbrigan Road? Jimmy, and his brother used to drive the lorries. What's his name, Eamon? Jimmy Welch. Jimmy and his brother, yeah. And I'm brought out. Of course, I knew Tolan all right. I knew to the sea. And James Daly says, Willie, he says, when you come here, you have to fucking walk. And I says, I'm going to tell you something, James. What I fucking seen of you, as I said, on the county council, I often done more in a fucking hour than you do in a fucking week. He says, you're one of the smart lads. I'm not a bit fucking smart, but I walked in the States and I walked in fucking Canada where you never was, and you couldn't lift your fucking head, which you couldn't. You couldn't light a cigarette. You had to work. And you had to work your day was up. I walked in the States with old Joe Carrick.
Yeah.
After coming out of hospital out there, and you couldn't light a cigarette. You got 10 minutes to get a smoke or a drink of tea, whatever you got, but you had to be back your fucking work and you couldn't stop. I had to walk. But I didn't give a shit about them. But I'm going to tell you what happened. James Daly, he'd say, right, Willie, he used to say to me, we're starting to walk, and he's 30 feet. 3 or 4 or 5 steps he'd take, and he'd give it back to the shovel. That's where we're going for smoke out. Starting 8:30 in the morning, 10 o'clock, knock off our smoke out. And that's where we chopped to the road, with the weeds and that. And I couldn't stand and lie over a fucking shovel. They could lie over a shovel for a half an hour or a brush. I couldn't do that. And I used to be afraid anyone would see me fucking standing and talk about it, because I never was used to that. I told Jimmy West, I said, Jimmy, I'm getting out of this fucking lot. Do you know who was with me? Leo Hughes got a job with me, and Brian, the two of them. And them lads never worked their fucking lives. They were on the dole, you see. But there was a job going at Christmas, and they got a job. Instead of getting the dole, they got a job working.
Right, yeah.
And they were getting that extra couple of shillings.
Yeah.
And you know what the fucking money was? £9 a week. And then £1.50 taken out of your fucking 9 for insurance and your stamp
Yeah.
at that time. You're coming home with £8. And I had to ride me bike all over the half of the fucking country. And the fucking rats then. And I tell you a good one. Then I joined the fucking thing first. The woman would make me fucking lunch. And I used to have it wrapped up in a couple of papers. And you'd lay your fucking bite again a gate. And when you go to collect your fucking lunch, there was not only the fucking crust out, the fucking rats had it fucking head. I didn't know what the fucking difference.
Yeah.
The fucking rats went at your fucking lunch and you had nothing to fucking eat. Way out, be Jesus.
Yeah.
I didn't know. You had to have a box or a tin box on the back of your bite to put your lunch in to keep the rats from eating it. But that's the truth. I was got fucking wise. I said, look at Jack, I said this about time. I was fucking bailing out. I never got the towel off.
Never got the towel.
I fucked off a way to say. I went up to Dublin, I seen Captain Knight. I said, Captain, I said, I'm after being on a fucking jobs and the rats ate me out of it. Sorry, I'm not going to be fucking head away and say. Now then, leaving Dickie Mooney.
Now, yeah, that was was he with you, really? Dickie?
No, Dickie never went to sea in his life.
Right.
Dickie was
A friend of yours.
He was a great friend of mine because
Yes.
we lived next door.
Right, and he died.
And the crater, the last time I was talking to him, you see, they left Lockshinny.
All right, yeah.
Now, his wife was a terrible nice woman. But anyway, the last time I saw Dickie went away the wife died. She had, now this is from her eldest daughter, Shelby, a lovely girl she is. And she's alive yet, she comes to visit me here in the summer. Oh, Jesus, I'll never forget this fucking week. Now, I was at the being in London. I was in the British and Irish, you see, what do you call it, the Caledonian coast. British and Irish.
Yeah,
I'd done 6 years in it.
Yeah.
Now, I was after doing 7 years with Andy and Thomas and them
Shell Max.
and Shell Max and come home
Yeah.
here, and it was a grand job. I was home every second Sunday for me dinner, running between Liverpool, Southampton, Cork. Yeah, Cork. We used to do Cork, Dublin.
Yeah.
It was a grand run, and I was home every second Sunday for me dinner here, and I had a good job, and I was the bosun's mate, and I never had fuck all work to do because I was all on heavy lifting gear and looking after and that, greasing and oiling and a bit of old paint and that. But I was watchman in, I used to go up to Bert McGee.
In Liverpool.
I used to go up to Bert.
Yeah.
Always in Liverpool.
Yeah.
And John, what do you call him? He used to say, Willie, you're going up tonight. He said, I look after your job, watchman. John say, I'll go to bed for a couple of hours and I look after your job. There was no bother in Liverpool. You see, you mightn't want to watchman at all. It's only kids and he was fucking touch. It was in the dock, you see.
Yeah, no title.
And John used to look after my job. And he used to go up to Bert. You see, he lived up in...
Exactly.
Yeah, correct. So I used to go up there every couple of weeks. I used to go up to them, even in the daytime, and be a watchman. I used to go up to them. But I was going ashore this day anyway, and I was in Liverpool. And I forget now what fucking picture. There was a good picture on. And I went up and I was getting into this queue after dinner for a 2 o'clock show. And I sees this lad with a dust coat on him. And I said, if Dickie Mooney was alive, I'd swear it was him. But it wasn't. I was mistaken. It wasn't Dickie. But I went to London in a month after Austin. And I was standing in the queue to go into this fucking... There was a show on. A sort of a matinee show was on. Like, it was after the Christmas time. And there was some class of a matinee show on. And I got into the queue and this fella passed down by me. And he came back and he tipped me in the shoulder. He says, you wouldn't be Willie McGee, would you? Says I, yes, says I, Dickie, says I am Willie McGee. Says I, where the fucking hell are you come from? Oh, he said, the wife died, he said, and the lassies, he said, weren't good to me. He said, they put me out and they told me to go away and do work. And he said, I couldn't get a job in Dublin. He said, I'm working in an old garage, he said, looking after petrol. He says, and this is me to half day off. And Jesus, I said, this is some sad. He said, says I, and what's the procedure? Says I, what class of a job is it? Well, he said, I get, he said, about £45 per week, he said. And I'm paying £25 in me digs. But he said, I'm fed. I like a,
Yeah,
no, £25. I'm paying £25 for where I am. And he said, I'm paying another £25, he says, for me food. And he says, all I have, he said, I get an odd tip, he said, in the garage for punctures and that. And he said, all I have is about £15, he says, altogether to spend. And he said, I go to Dowd Pictures now and again, or a show, whatever it is, just to pass an hour. He said, I had to give up smoking and everything, for I can't afford it. And so I think he says, I'm a here for smoke, but I here's 40 for you. I do 20 packs. Look at me and see, I here's a smoke.
Yeah.
Anyway. But says we don't do the cigarettes, but I can get them off other ships. I can get them off other ships. Without a bit of bother. We didn't do the, what do you
There's
call
no
it?
bond.
No, we'd no bond.
No coast,
But I
yeah.
could get all I fucking wanted, you see, in London,
Yeah.
because I knew all the fellas that had cigarettes. I'd get a carton of cigarettes for a 5 or 2,000. That was all right, that passed. I said, look at Dickie, I said, we're sailing, now this is for Thursday, we're sailing, I said, tomorrow night to what's this, Cork and Dublin, I said. Well, he said, there's no use in giving you the address of Shelby, she lives out somewhere around. Sally Noggin, I think she lived. She was married and she had a couple of children. That passed off. I said, right, Dick, he said, the next time I come back, if I get a chance, I said, now, so it's all according to, I can't promise you nothing. If I get a chance, I'll be up here. As I say, maybe it'll be your day off, so I might see, and about a few cigarettes, as I'd give them to you.
Yeah.
Which I would do. I'd get a few cigarettes, 6 or 8 cigarettes, and I'd bring them up to the crate, they're all right, and give them to you, because he wasn't the worst of them. About a year elapsed. I come home to see anyway, and it was the Thomas working on the North Dublin growers. And this fucking knock come to the door this Saturday morning. And honest to Jesus, we're blowing a gale of wind and fucking southeast wind and rain, southerly wind and rain awesome.
Yeah.
And this girl come to the door and I opened the door. She said, oh, Shelby, I said, how are you? She can I come in for a minute? I said, certainly come in for a minute. She see me daddy is out. Oh, Jesus, I said, why didn't you bring him in? I thought Dickie was with her. And she looked at me. She said, I know, so I was talking to your daddy, I said, here about a year ago, says I in London. I know that, she said. I know, he told me you would. So wouldn't you bring him in? Oh, she's in a little box outside. Oh, Jesus.
And Norn.
He was in a little fucking box outside.
Yeah.
Now, the box also was about that length and about that depth and about so wide. You know, Christ almighty. Twice the length of the milk box now.
Yeah.
That's all he was in.
Right, yeah.
And his last wish is to be buried over at Ginny Noisel's, under Ginny Noisel's
At
burial.
Dromonic.
At Dromonic.
At Dromonic.
That was his
yeah.
wishes.
Yeah.
After being fucking, what do you call it? None of ashes. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust, and this is the whole thing you must. If God doesn't take it, then you will
must. Yeah.
So now I said, Jesus says, will you come down with me? Says, I wouldn't have a look at the fucking on, see where the fucking tide is out.
Yeah.
The tide was full out all right.
Yeah.
Was low water by 12 o'clock awesome.
Yeah.
And she had the car, drove across the remark, oh Jesus, I can tell you this much. You want a pair of fucking goggles on you. I think some of the stuff got up your nose was up, and yet it was sneezing for an hour after it. She says, do you know any prayers? I says, oh yes, I can say an Our Father, a Hail Mary, or whatever you like. So anyway, she gave me this fucking box, and I said, right, says I. And all I could do was do the sign of the cross with it. I said, in the name of the Father, Son, Holy Ghost, Amen. In the name of the poker, I said, then out of the tongues and the child of Christian, we'll all sing songs. He scattered the rest. And the fucking eyes was cut at it with Dickie's fucking, what do you call it?
Ashes.
Ashes.
With the wind.
With
Willie.
the wind out.
It came back on you.
Come back on,
Yeah.
the eyes out of you.
Yeah.
And it was to me hair.
Yeah.
The woman says, Jesus, bring a dead man's fucking ashes into the house.
You had to wash it out then.
Fucking had to go to the fucking yard and fucking push it on me yard. He'd come tonight and take it out of your fucking head. You'll see his ghost all your life, the woman said.
Yeah.
I says, I agree with that. I had to do it for the place to cash her.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why you're the full head of hair, yes?
Yeah, it's a good
Something
bait.
like Willie, maybe,
Good bait.
yeah.
It is. Yeah,
Oh, so the video didn't show
but
up that
I'm
day.
sure
I
it's on
lost-
that, yeah, I'm sorry now.
I lost it all that time. Well, I tell you, I met with an accident after that, and I hadn't a fucking hair in my head, and the mud was me flat of my hand.
Yeah.
Burnt off. You remember I got burnt with the acid? I was in an explosion. And I hadn't a hair in my head. I was a master scabs for the whole year. And Dr. Prendeville said to me, I was after doing 4 or 5 months with him. And I was then, I had to go to Dynair and that, and I'd done a couple of months of Dynair. They let me home for a while. And he says, when you leave here, he said, me good man, he says, get the lady of the house, he says, to go down to the chemist and get this big bottle of olive oil as you can get. Because he says, you won't be running or you won't be jumping because he says you're not able. He said, we're at the making a foot for you. And he says, your knee is not right. I was doing this fucking, what do you call it, in Jervis Street, and I was in Stevens' house with my foot up in the cage for months, making a foot. I had to take the 2 cheeks out my arse, my 2 groins, me fucking shoulders, a piece out my fucking belly to make a fucking foot. And fucking grafts all over me. I grafted everywhere, even around my eye. There was a hole burnt right to the pupil of the eye, and I'm all grafted around the eye for to get an eye to fit in his place. And then they took me in. I met with the accident in 1972, and I come out of the hospital, and in 1975 they called me in for to give me a transplant eye. Now this was an insurance job. I done 16 weeks walking up and down in the Iron Hospital, not a bother on me, waiting on an eye, and they wouldn't even let me home. They couldn't because they didn't know the minute there was an eye going to come
You
up.
had to be available.
I had to be available at all times.
And you got the eye then put in.
One morning at
What
4
was it
o'clock.
like? Yeah, tell us about that.
I got 12 years out of it, and I
Right.
done right well. And there she is there now, she's blind, but I got 12 years out of her.
Way.
Yeah. 12 years out of the eye.
Very good.
But it was an insurance job.
Was it a big thing for it to be able to see again out of that?
Oh, God, yeah. But I was completely blind, you see. I got trouble with that eye, you see, as well. That did get a certain amount, but not as severe. That eye was only 60% for a while, because when I was in the eye in their hospital, all I could see was shadows first. And they kept treating this eye. Dr. Thompson was the man, but his father was the head man in the eye in there, Dr. Thompson. He was a Jew. And he took me over from the day I met with the accident. He was waiting on me to go into the Stevens' hospital. Stevens' hospital I was rushed to. When I met with the fucking accident,
What actually happened?
I was working for a Danish firm in this country, and we were doing fitting in pumps and fitting in water systems into glass houses. I was supposed to be a plastic fitter by trade, 3 weeks training,
Right.
and I would come out as a plastic fitter. Now this is no joke.
I know, remember it, Willie.
Remember it?
I remember you there, yeah.
Fitting up all the...
The Automatic.
Formatic.
Yeah.
I started below in Bantry, and I fended up at Gutmahawk, the farthest point, and I worked for UCD above for 6 months. They all have benches and grow all classes up there, and I got the stuff right over from the firm, and I had to put them in 6 inches, 2 inches, 3 inches, all tubing into it. You had to build it up yourself for them. Like all into the different pots of flowers and that. That was my job. And I done 3 weeks training for that, and I would come out as a plastic fitter. After
Is
few
that
of
they
me
call
fucking years at
Is
sea.
it a real term?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and fitting in pumps as well.
Yeah.
Fitting in pumps as well.
Was this water systems for...
Water system
yeah.
for feeding the tomatoes.
Mostly
It's a
around
tube.
here, it was...
It's a tube with a lace on
yeah,
it.
Yeah.
a vein, a main
A
vein.
main
drip.
vein.
And a lace came out
Yeah.
to each
To each
plant.
individual
Yeah.
plant. That was
And-
our job.
The last vein, or last lace,
Yeah,
you would put, it was a dummy one
yeah,
really,
that's right.
and you'd put a milk bottle under it.
Yeah.
And,
And
when the milk bottle
was full,
filled
was a
to-
pint of water.
You knew that each tomato plant
Plant
Yes.
got
got
that
one
amount
pint
of water. 1
Oh,
pint of
very
water.
And-
good.
Yeah,
yes.
that was the
And
that was
it
the
saved
measurement.
Dave.
Very good. Very
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
It's not very clever.
Oh yeah,
Very,
but that
very
was what we
yeah.
Is
worked
it
with.
that when it got
Yeah.
everything, the other one's got a point.
Yeah.
Everything got a point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
once the
But if it
milk
was
bottle
discharging at that
full,
I worked with your brother,
Jackie,
Jackie,
that's correct.
over in the North Dublin Crowers, so I did.
Yeah.
Jackie was on the floor. He was manager. Your Jackie was manager over there on the
Over
floor.
there, was he?
Yeah, he
No,
was. He
no,
was
no.
managing. There was a Mr. McGee, a manager and director.
Yeah.
I couldn't go fucking wrong with him. He was the same now, though he's a Northern World man. And your Jackie was
What-
on the
Tell us
him.
what happened about now. That's what you were doing. So about the accident itself.
Oh yeah, I met with the accident. We worked all the summer in all the glass houses, but during the winter months, you had to wash out the systems, all the different systems we installed in was washed out through the winter. And you had to wash them out with a certain amount of acid. Now we had different tanks for acid. Well, I was getting ready to go to a Mrs. Plunkett. There's a butcher shop below in at Boy. Kevin Brown, you know Kevin Brown. He was the head man over the grants for the glass house at the time.
Right.
He owned it. He was married to Mrs. Plunkett's daughter.
Right.
But it was in Plunkett's name. It wasn't Kevin Brown. You see,
Oh,
he was the
no.
head man over the grants. You see, in the government that time. And I knew Kevin really well. He said, Willie, he said, we want you to go down there to do a job. He said, Mrs. Plunkett, not my name, you know. I knew him really well. He was okay, though. I used to get a nod back, threw me a nod pound or two. But however, I was going down to do a job, and I wouldn't mind. The evening before, Joe said to me, Joe McNulty, Willie, he says, you better get ready, he says, for Mrs. Plunkett in the morning. He says, you have to go down, he said, to do that job for Kevin Brown. He's on to me today, he says, and he wants it flushed out. I said, okay, Joe, so I'll get ready my gear. And I was at the getting 2 cans out and washing them out and having them ready. All I had to do the next morning
Fill it up.
was to fill the acid up,
Yes, for the
which
cans,
I couldn't
yeah.
do overnight because if anything happened.
Did you
Now, Hughie was working, I forget, he was working he was working away out in Old Town or somewhere. What did Hughie do? Hughie come in and I was on the Volkswagen, I had the Volkswagen van, you see, and Hughie come in on the fucking Escort, and he took his 2 tins out, and he threw them into the Volkswagen van out of his, because he wanted to go piping. He'd too much piping away,
Right,
wasn't
yeah.
and he threw them into my Volkswagen van. And when I went over the next morning, of course I didn't take it, I took out 2 tins to put 2.5 gallons into one and 2 gallons into one and 4.5 gallons, you see. And I took out the wrong fucking tins. There wasn't no water in one of them. And I never was thinking. I had my own job ready. But he come in that night after me and he threw the 2 tins in. Of course, naturally, I wouldn't be thinking of that, Austin. But Jesus, anyway, when the accident happened, you could walk in between the 2 cars, the 2 vans.
Yeah.
One was hanging on the fucking handle to the other when the accident happened. There was the jump she gave. But I was the luckiest man in the world.
And was the problem water in the cans? Is that
Water was in the can, and I emptied the acid, and that's what built up the explosion. You must put the water in after.
Yeah, not the other way around.
Acid, the other way around.
You added to the water.
I added to the water, but Austin, I didn't know there was water. There could be only that much
yeah.
water,
Yeah.
but that built up.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
what caused
She
the
filled,
fucking
yeah.
PVC burst, and were right up with my fucking head
Really?
and face.
Oh, dear
All
God.
on this side, because you can't stand in front of it. You have to empty it sort of sideways, like that.
Yeah. Oh,
And just when it come up over my head and face.
One side.
And that eye was
Yeah.
born through, it's all grafted.